right, special ed here at the 2011 Fit Expo with IFBB professional bodybuilder Viktor
Konovalov. Can of love. Not kind of like an olive, a can of love.
I can say that, can of love. Now, Viktor, people see a guy in a wheelchair with big muscles like you. I think a lot of times the first thing they wanted to know is what happened. What happened to put you in the chair?
When I was 20 years old, I used to race motocross, and when I was 20 years old, I crashed off of a jump, and I landed on my legs, and that shattered my 12th thoracic vertebrae, which injured my spinal cord, and that paralyzed me. And that's why I'm in the wheelchair.
Now, people talk about depression for people in that circumstance. It's like very common. How long would you say your rut was from the time that happened until you really kind of started to feel yourself pulling out of it?
I was honestly, and I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, for about the first 3 months, I was in deep depression. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I even had like family come by and visit me at the hospital, and I had very little to say to them because I didn't know what to say. You know, I didn't know what to think of myself, of the whole situation. And then about another 7 months beyond that, I started to kind of lift out of it. And then it wasn't until I decided to go back to college to work on my degree, and I joined a gym, and that's when I started to notice that the weight of this all started to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And it's probably, I think the gym especially was something that helped me overcome it because I was able to refocus back on me and sort of build myself back up again, and I guess in a sense regain my my identity again, because I lost my identity altogether.
Now, when it comes to training, tell us what limitations do you have being in a wheelchair? What are some exercises that, I mean, obviously you can't train your legs, but in terms of, like, for example, doing cool downs, you kind of put the bar over there, but if you can't, does that affect you as far as feeling?
It does, because, you know, there's some physical laws, physical properties. For every action is equal and opposite reaction. So if you can't stabilize, you know, a lot of the energy that you load up onto your body, you can't transfer back to the floor and back to the weight. So you end up becoming a little bit weaker because of that. If you're trying to lock down on a machine, and consequently, as you pull on something, your body wants to lift, so you end up losing some torque because of that. I can't do, obviously, like heavy rows or deadlifts or squats, which help to build a lot of mass on your body, so I'm limited in that respect. So I have to find other ways to kind of adapt and to try to build up my physique to the degree that I want to.
What advice would you give somebody, because this happens to a lot of people in motocross, bicycle, people, a lot of diving accidents for swimmers. What advice would you give to somebody, if, let's say a teenager or something like this happens to, that's finding up the same situation? What words of inspiration would you give to them?
I would say, and I'm going to say this because I went through this. The very first day that I went to the gym, I was petrified. I was so scared of being in there because I knew that once I went in that gym, that all eyes would be upon me. And guess what? They were. Because I could see them directly, or I could see the mirrors, and I could see people staring at me. And it took a while to kind of get used to these people staring. And I couldn't help it but think that people were thinking, what's this guy who's in a wheelchair doing in the gym? What's he capable of doing here? You know, he's wasting his time. But slowly but surely, I started getting used to the equipment, and I started to learn what my capabilities were, and I started to really conquer, you know, this equipment. And I started to use it well, and people started to really notice that. And now all of a sudden, things changed, and people were coming up to me just congratulating me, you know, giving me high five, respect, saying that you're doing an awesome job, and really noticing how you're changing. Or better yet, they would come up to me and say, I noticed you doing something, what were you training? I want to try that, you know? So now they were coming to me for advice. So I was sort of blown away by that. So my advice to these people is, don't give up on yourself, because you can achieve the same thing, and you can eventually teach others as well too, just like I did, you know? So that's what I would say.
Special ed here with Viktor, an inspiration to all lifters and bodybuilding douches alike. Thanks a lot, man.
My pleasure, man. You guys can do it. Awesome.
Thank you.
So thank